Okay, so I'll continue from where I left off. Okay, so from where I left off is basically I was talking about the plugins, right? So plugins are add-ons. So I hope you guys get the idea lah. So there's a problem with plugins is that many plugins, right, they offer different codes that can actually offer you different features, like an additional feature to your website, which is a good thing. But what I don't recommend is to actually download too many plugins. Yes, plugins are good because they include features that you can't find in WordPress itself. But if you were to download too many stuff, right, it's like if you have a bag, if WordPress is like a bag, and then you keep on putting stuff in your bag, and then you will get heavier and heavier. It's the same idea for WordPress. If you download too many plugins, WordPress itself cannot really handle running so much plugin at one go. So sometimes you might run into issues like the website cannot really open, or you can't really even enter the back end to actually edit anything. That's because sometimes certain plugins will conflict with another when their code developers actually use different methods of achieving certain features. So one thing I recommend is for those of you who are gonna do website designing or gonna have your own website, one suggestion I have for you is you can download plugins that are useful, but try to keep it within 20, or at least keep only 20 that are actively being used. So you can download 30, but keep 20 active so that you won't be like looking around managing all the different plugins on your website. And the fourth thing is, of course, to create your own website for today. So some tips and tricks that I will share with you guys regarding like my experience for the past few months is that when you create a website, right, you must be first creative. So creative referring to like the design and how you actually display certain things on your website. And then there's also other creative parts, is like color. It's very hard to actually achieve very good colors that can blend together, especially when you're not an art student. Like for me, I'm a business student and I didn't really do well for my secondary school art. So when it comes to matching colors, right, I'm really bad. Like I don't know which color code match with which color code. And from what I said, you can hear that actually when you do website, right, they don't really have just the primary colors. They have actually the whole range of color codes. So if you are like familiar with color coding, so I would recommend you to like make use of that knowledge, if you're comfortable with using that. Second is to stay consistent. So like you can be very creative, right? But it's not good to have like if you have 12 pages on your website and all 12 pages look extremely different, then there's really no point now, because you don't really give someone an impression that all these 12 pages belong to one single domain. So one thing I would recommend is to stay consistent. So the best way to stay consistent is, of course, to start with a fixed menu. Like the menu at the top of your website, right, should be as similar as possible. You can make some changes to it, but don't try to make like too much fancy changes so that your visitors will get confused when they visit your website like over time. And last but not least is content. Andrew will most likely talk about content in a later session, but for now, right, I'll keep it short lah. So content is basically what you input. It can be image, videos, text. So for instance, if you're like selling insurance, like Andrew, information is very important. So how you actually craft your content from the information you have is very important, because website is something that people will glance through. So you shouldn't be putting too much lengthy information. It's good to maybe keep it to a few paragraphs. Yeah, so that's something you can do and something to take note of. And second is to focus on a basic. It's like if you are starting out to build a website, right? I know it's in your mind to actually like do it as fancy as possible. But after I actually learned over the months, right, is that sticking to the most basic stuff is more important, because you rather have your website functioning than to have your website being fancy and no one can see it, right? So no point having a very good website and no one can see it. So I rather you have a very simple one and it's function like perfectly well. And another thing on the third point is using dash and not underscore. So this is something that is really basic, or like I would say very simple, but many people actually like neglect it, is that when you create any media files or you create any pages, don't use underscore in your name. Like don't name or title certain media, like certain files, media or pages with underscore, because it's actually not very I would say friendly for the system to recognize. So use dash. I would recommend to use dash for anything. So for example, you want to write how to use certain thing, right? And then you need to separate the words. You just use how -to something. Don't use underscore. And then the fourth is make use of the support team. So like me and Andrew have mentioned in our first session, right? When you have SiteGround, they actually have a 24 hours 24 hours support team. So if you face any troubles that are related to your website as a whole, for example, virus or getting hacked, getting attacked, you can actually contact SiteGround because they actually have certain like resources to actually support you. Some services are like additionally paid lah, so you have to pay extra, but most services are free because of your plan that you buy with them. So I would recommend you to actually approach them if you're facing any like serious issues with your website, such as unable to actually access your website for quite some time. You can approach them for that. They will most likely get you another way to actually enter the back end, or they will actually help you to fix something on the back end. And for the fifth one is to actually organize your sidebar. So this is not something very common. It's like if every website normally don't have a sidebar, but for those store related website or online commercial e-commerce website, sidebars are very common because you have a list of products, and of course you want to list out your list of products. So sidebars are very common. So for those of you who are not creating anything that is related to listings a lot of items, right, try not to use sidebars because sidebars are really hard to manage. I personally would not recommend that lah. I rather you have a menu that can actually navigate through more friendly, like more user friendly rather than sidebars. And finally is learn about SEO. This one Andrew will also be talking about in the next few days. So I will not go in depth, but I will basically say that SEO affects your website. So getting the right SEO or getting the best SEO will be optimal for your website. So that's something that you guys should know. And the next one is keep it simple. So like I mentioned just now, like when I say keep it simple as in keep to only practice the basics. But when I say keep it simple, right, I meant like the overall layout of a website for this part is actually to keep your website clean. So a lot of websites have overwhelming of photos, right? So a downside to overwhelming of photos or content on a website is that your pages tend to load slower. For some of you who don't know, so if you actually notice, right, when you go to browse a video website, like a video streaming website, for example, you want to watch a drama, you go to a website that is filled with drama, you realize that the website tend to load slower than a website that only has text. It's because videos and images tend to take up more RAM, so it takes them a longer time to actually load out the whole entire web page. So for those of you who are actually going to create multiple websites, multiple web pages, I mean, I'll recommend you to use images to replace words, but use it wisely. I know that images can replace a lot of like unnecessary words or paragraphs, but if you overwhelmingly spam like many images on a single page, it will actually cause your loading speed to be way slower, which is very not user friendly lah for anyone that is going to visit your website. And the second one is to understand color codes. Just now I mentioned, for those of you who understand color codes, it's good lah for you to actually practice it in website building. But for those of you who don't know, right, you should actually learn it someday because color code is not only applicable for website. Like you building mobile apps, you're playing with other software such as like photoshopping. Like when you go to Adobe Premiere or even Window Pro, like Window Final Cut Pro on the Apple device, right? You'll notice that a lot of their software um uses color code as their practice to actually form colors. Sorry, and my screen was lagging. I was trying to. Okay, so continue from the color code part. The next one is actually to monitor your website performance. So this is something that not many people practice, but Andrew, from what I know, Andrew do practice this, which is to actually monitor how your website is performing. So how can you actually monitor is very simple, looking at traffic and also looking at leads. So first is traffic. Traffic is the amount of people who actually visit or enter your website to look at your content. So this is a very big step for especially for new websites. To actually get people to visit your website is really, really tough. Like no one will, there's like over 2 million domain on SiteGround alone. That's not including like other platforms. So you must understand that to have like thousands of viewers or thousands of visitors coming to your website daily, right, it's actually really tough. So that's something you should monitor because you're paying for the domain every month. You're paying for the SiteGround service every month. You should actually see results. So this is one way to actually see whether you're doing it right and also doing it worth the value. So next is ensure all the plugins are updated. So for those of you who can recall, right, just now I mentioned plugins sometimes conflict. So which is why I don't want you guys to download too many plugins. So this is another problem, is that sometimes, right, when plugins update themselves, right, their coders or their developers of the software actually make changes to the plugin. And these changes can be small and they also can be big. And if it's big, right, it might be very unfortunate for you, because if the changes is very significant, it might conflict with other plugins, resulting in your website crashing because of the coding not aligned. So that's something that you must be aware of. So every time you update your plugins, right, do take note of the issues, that the errors that might pop up, because at least that you know that certain plugins are affecting your overall function of your website. Yeah, so that's something that you must take note. Next is, like I said, use videos and images rather than text, because it actually save up a lot of space. But like I said, don't spam it, don't overwhelm your website with images. Yeah, so I will later show you guys how to actually make very good use of images or overlapping images to create really good texture effects, and also to give people the appealing vibe that you want to, your website is very fancy, and also we not spamming too much images. The last one is of course mobile usability. So what this means is, you you have a website on the net, right? Is of course you don't want to just have visitors coming from computers or maybe laptops. You of course want visitors from mobile phones, and we all know that there's a huge amount of people using mobile phone, so the market is quite big for mobile users. So making your website mobile friendly is another thing that you should take note of. So there's some ways to actually make your mobile usability higher, and I'll show you to you later. Okay, so before I continue, right, uh I will take we will have a 5 minute break before I continue, because I'll be going into how to build a website. So for those of you who have any questions regarding the tips that I shared with you, right, you can actually point it out, because yeah, after this I'll be entering the harder part, or the more confusing part about building websites. Any questions? If not, we'll take a break from to 7:35, and then from there I'll begin on Elementor, the first web builder for today. I'll be only briefly going through Elementor, because Elementor is not something that is practiced by me myself. So all I can provide to you is the basic idea of how the software works, and of course the features that can be found inside the software itself. So I hope that whatever I teach you, right, will be sufficient enough for you to actually perform on building a website. But following that, I'll of course teach you something that I'm more familiar with, which is Divi, which is also another web building software. So some of you might wonder what's the difference between Elementor and Divi, right? Is apart from the pricing, is that Elementor have a free trial and Divi don't have. So yeah, just a heads up. So we'll take a break until 7:35. Yeah. Any questions, you can feel free to voice out now. Hello. Is everyone back? Okay, so I believe there's no questions, right? If there's no questions, then I will begin with the first part of the web building. Hello. Okay, so to begin with, right? For those of you who are interested, this is the pricing of Elementor. So as you can see, it's a annual payment thing. So for those of you who are like really interested to use it, you can pay 199 for a year, and that supports 1,000 sites. And the others are like, yeah, the smaller it gets, the lesser usage you have, the lesser license I would say you have. Yep. And for those of you who are interested, the link is here. You can click on that to actually explore the software itself. So going back to the software itself, right? First, I'll go the WordPress account that I've prepared. So I'll be using this WordPress account called Java the Elementor plugin, but I will run through on how you can actually uh download the plugin itself and how to operate it. And on top of that, I also go through like all the features and functions you can actually find on WordPress itself. So to begin, right, I will just briefly explain to you what are on the dashboard. So this is the dashboard of a WordPress account. You guys are able to see this, right? I believe. So as you can see, this is the dashboard. Then you can see there's posts and media and pages. So first is posts. So there are people who actually get confused between posts and pages is because posts and pages actually offer similar function to which that they create a new page or a new like web page that allows people to view. So what is the main difference between a post and a page is that a page is normally a permanent like content. So you want it there for a longer period of time. And for post, right, it can be for short-term content. For example, a blog, a podcast, an article, something that has a date to it and something that is published for a certain reason or just for a specific purpose. So that is something you can do with posts. And for pages, it's normally things that are like information about your business, services that you offer, people that are in your business they can contact. Yeah, like a contact us page, uh, application page, etc. So pages are more like static as compared to posts. So I'll be mainly going through pages is because post is more like an article, and I believe most of you have seen an article which is like a page that has mainly text and also the date of publish, followed by a few images that is related to the article itself. So that's something that is post which is quite simple. And as long as you master how to actually create a page, right? Post will be a very simple task for any one of you because it's very simple as compared to page itself, and the features found in post is actually significantly lesser than the features you can actually find in the page tools. So yeah. So to begin with is to actually teach you guys how to get the plugin for Elementor. So as you can see, I hover across the dashboard, right? There's some plugins. So there are three options: plugins editor, add new, and install plugins. So install plugin is basically the plugins you already own. And then add new is basically the plugins that you plan to install and activate for your page, for your website. And plugin editor is basically the back end of all your plugins where you can actually edit the certain codes or certain features so that it will enhance or optimize your plugin so that it fits your needs. For example, you want to have a store, but your store don't have a title, but you want to have a title in your store page. You can actually go into your plugin editor, put in a series of codes, and from there your plugin will actually adjust itself so that it will appear a title at the top. So I will not go in depth for plugin editors because that's a more difficult part and you need to have some coding background or at least know how to actually insert codes, and that will take some time, so I will not go into that. But to start off, the basic is to actually get the plugin. So I click on add new. And then you'll see the page that showcase all the plugins that are available to you. And then you can actually add a plugin. So there are two ways to actually get a new plugin onto your website. First is of course to search the plugin in the market. Yeah, I call this a market, but actually it's just a place where you can just download like an app store. But I like to call it a market. So you can actually like type Elementor, and it will search for you the relevant plugins. So as you can see, there's a lot, right? So the first one is what we want, which is Elementor Page Builder. And you can see there's over 5 million plus active installations. So what this means is there are quite a good amount of people downloading it lah. And you can see that with even with 5 million plus users, they still maintain a 5-star rating, which means that they're actually very performing very well lah, as a plugin itself. And also another thing you must take note is that on the right side, right, whenever you get a new plugin, always make sure that there's this green tick, is to be safe. It's actually a verification that it actually works well with your current version of WordPress. Because WordPress itself, right, it's a software, so it gets to update like a, a couple of months, it will have a new update. So not every plugin have a regular test. So this verification tick, right, basically means that the developer of this plugin have actually used their software on the new version of WordPress, and they have verified that it is working perfectly on the new version. So always ensure that there's a green tick, and also to take note of the last updated time, because this will show that how active the updates are. Yeah, some plugin itself, right, can have a latest update of like 2 years, which means that the code developer might not be active anymore. So you might not want to like download that plugin now. So I have my plugin installed. So I'll give you another example, which is like something like this. So assuming I have yet to download this, right, the Elementor page builder, I can actually see this install now button here, but mine is update now because I already have downloaded it. So I can click install now, and after that, it will have an activate button. From there, you can actually click activate, and you will see it appearing under your install plugins. Yep, here you go. So you can see an activate button similar to like Divi Builder currently. It's not active, so it's not actually working on your WordPress. So for those plugins that you find that is relevant but not really useful most of the time, what you can do is you can download them, but you try to deactivate them when they are not in use, so that you can prevent as little plugin conflict as possible. So once you download it, right, you can actually click activate something like this, and then it will become like this. So you'll see settings, deactivate, and go pro. Go pro means to buy it premium. So now, before we begin, right, I want to introduce you guys to another plugin that I find really compatible with Elementor itself. So I'll go add new. And then I'll search for the plugin called Envato Elements. So this plugin is actually very useful. It's because, yeah, I already got it active already. So what this plugin do is that it offers a range of thousands of free templates on Elementor. So for those of you who are interested in using Elementor, which has a free trial, you can consider downloading this, because this offer free templates. So they already have a pre-built website for you to actually play around with, and all you need to do is edit the pictures and the content to your liking, and you're done. So it actually save you the time, and also save you the time that you need to be creative. So for those of you who are not creative like me, you might consider using templates. But for those of you who are like familiar with building websites and you are good at like being creative and creating new layouts, I would recommend you building from scratch. So I will teach you guys how to use Elementor now. So now I'll go into a page. So now I go into my pages. And you will see a series of page. These are things that I already created. So this is where you can actually manage your page. Okay, so before I actually go into pages, right, I would like to share with you guys how to actually manage your menu, because menu is something that is on top of your website itself. So it's way more important than having a page, because if you don't have a menu, even if you have a very nice homepage, the people can't really navigate to another page, for example, to your store, to your blog, to your podcast. So it's better to start off with a menu. So what you can do is go into under appearance, right? You hover your mouse across appearance. You have the word customize. So you click on customize. It will bring you to a customized software. So in this customized software, right, it is where you can actually edit your whole entire website itself in terms of like text size, in terms of border, in terms of background colors, in terms of like your global headings, footer, etc. So it's more of the general settings that are found on this this system. So you can see that there's active theme, right? So I'm currently using Astra. So Astra is a theme builder. So the difference between a theme builder and a page builder is that the page builder actually offers functions that builds a page, but a theme builder is what manages the overall system of a page builder. Yeah, so there's a difference. But for the next page builder that I'm introducing, which is Divi, right? It actually combines the two, which is why the company is one of the biggest firms operate page builder. Yeah. So later on you might be interested to find out more. But for now, I will go on the custom builder, which is for Astra. So you can see there's global, right? I will go through one by one the functions that are here, so that in the future, if you were to download Elementor along with Astra, you're able to manage your menu on your Elementor builder. So first is global. So on global, there are like 4 settings, which is typography, colors, container, and buttons. So container, I will just ignore because it's something that's not really necessary, and I personally feel that no one will actually use it. So I'll skip that part. But for typography, is basically the text. So this manages all your text throughout your whole entire website. So assuming you are where you have a specific theme in your mind, a specific font type in your mind. For example, Times New Roman, you want to use only throughout your whole entire website, you actually can set it here. So this actually like manages your entire text font type basically, if you were to say. So when you're editing a web page later on in the page builder, you actually have like everything, all your entire text in maybe area. If you're using area, you have it all in that format. So this is something you can manage. Basically, how bold you want it to be, and text transform can be capitalized, etc. So this is where you can manage your text, and from what you can see earlier on, headings of each paragraph. So it's as simple as that. So I bring you in just to take a look. Yep, it's similar to the one you have seen previously. So there's like heading 1, heading 3, heading 5, heading 6. So these headings are standardized for all page builders. From what I know in the market, it's all heading 1 to heading 6. So it helps you to actually manage the different type of headings you want in your whole entire website. Like as you can see now on my screen, right? This flag training school is one heading. So assuming that you want to have 2 headings, you can have another small heading at the bottom, maybe like free coaching lessons. So when it comes to managing it, you can actually put flight training school as heading 1 and maybe lesson as heading 2. Then from there, you can actually manage the different font, not having to actually create 2 different texts. Yeah, you can just create one text box, but manage 2 different font types. Yeah, it's easier to manage it. Okay, so now we have colors. Colors is basically colors for backgrounds, etc. So I won't go into details because later on in the page builder, we actually have a lot more features that you can actually use to optimize your page to make it more appealing and attractive. And for buttons, I believe it's quite obvious, which is buttons like intro flight inside that you can this is where you can actually standardize their size, etc. But for those of who are more creative, prefer to build from scratch, you won't be using much of the system here. I would say much of the functions here. Yeah, because these functions are actually general functions. But later on in the page builder itself, you actually did all these singly, like separately, one by one. So headers is basically your menu. So it's settings regarding your menu. So you can see the logo here is actually the logo selected here. So this is where you can actually customize styling. So I'll bring you back to the tab itself. So it's called header. Second option under global. So you can take a look here for extra users. Not all theme customizers are the same. So the one that I'm showing you now is called Astra, A-S-T-R-A. So for those of you using Astra for Elementor, you can feel free to look at what I'm doing right now. So this is the logo, which is here, and also the site icon. So if you look at header, right, you can see I'm currently customizing Jaga community caregiver for caregiver. So you can see that there's logo on my this is being reflected. So this is called a site icon. And for the site title is basically normally people put it as their branding name. For example, Nike, they will put it as Nike. If you see my mouse right now, I'm holding on Nike's website. So it's Nike.com. So their slogan is just do it. So they have Nike full stop, just do it. Similar for our page. Our page slogan tagline is basically caregiver for caregiver, which is why over you can see caregiver for caregiver. So I will not spend too much time on the entire thing, so I will just jump straight into the key points of our entire customizer so that I go on to the page builder. So I might fast forward a bit from now on. So for this part, it's actually primary header. So primary header refers to the menu. So that my menu is basically logo left. So logo left means your logo is on the left and your entire on the right. So you can see that I selected this. So if I assuming I were to select this instead, logo on the right. So it takes some time to actually this view on your screen. And from there, you also can adjust whether you want it to be full width or content width. So content width means that you actually follow the content that you create at the bottom of your page. So the menu will just stick to the size of your content. But for those of you who are, I would highly recommend to go with because it's more user friendly. Is there any questions so far? No, right? Hello? If there's no question, I will move on with the lesson. So continue from where I left off is basically I'm on the premium headers, primary header. So at the bottom you can see mobile header. So it's basically the display of how you want it to look like in a mobile phone. So there's only options for extra. So primary menu is basically settings you want to see your menu. It's all here. Similar for your mobile menu, you can actually everything here. And for the last tab is basically transparent header. So what transparent header means, currently my menu, right, is white in the background. So what you to do when you do transparent header is that you will shift all your entire content up, whereby your header will be covering into your content. So these are the key tabs that you actually might want to take note. For the other less significant or you might not want to consider having, but it's optional. For those of you who prefer to have a footer, you can actually come here to create a footer for yourself. Create ending page, ending section on every single page. So it's like a standardized thing. So for those who want to include like your contact us page or contact us, you can actually here under footer. And for home, actually, for combine at training school. And whenever I were to click home on our similarly, when I were to maybe jaga.community, I'll be brought here directly. So these are the things. Okay, so for the rest of the settings, right, I will recommend you use as not as frequently used, I will say. So for those who are more about extra customizing, you can actually explore it by download extra. So for those of you who are interested to like other types of customizer, I would say, you actually download another tool which I will now show you. So under appearance, right? If you guys can recall, I actually enter the customizing page under by clicking on the customize. So on top of it, you will see themes. You click on that. You will see a number of themes that I have already downloaded. So one of them is extra. So I'll introduce to you another two themes that are compatible with Divi. Compatible with Elementor. So the first of all is extra, the one that I prefer. The other two will be generate pass and Ocean WP. So Ocean WP and generate pass are other two customizers that are actually very compatible with Elementor itself. So you might want to consider using them. For me, I would prefer extra for Elementor. So these are the three options you can consider. Like I said, for Divi Builder later on, there won't be any theme customizer, so you don't have to worry to download another thing, like an extra software. Okay, so moving on, I will just jump straight into building a page. So I will start with a simple sample. Okay, so this is a template that I have actually retrieved from Envato elements. So I'll actually use this template to actually perform certain features that actually show you guys actually how you can create the web page from scratch. Yeah. So I will just click edit with Elementor. Okay, I'll briefly explain how the creator of this website created this entire web page by himself. Like the types of modules that he's used, types of functions and features that he have included in this web page. Before I begin, anybody have any questions regarding the theme customizer that I've just mentioned? Because that's something that you guys will have to interact with eventually if you want to create a website. Hello, is there any questions?
No.
Okay. Sorry, give me some time while I load the page. Okay, so I believe everyone can see the page, right? So you can see that there's a series of elements, right? So there are, for Elementor, the software, you classify the types of functions as elements, but when you go on to Divi, it's called modules, which is why I accidentally used the word module previously. So for the elements you can use, right, it's actually quite simple. So I'll perform certain of this website to show you guys how they actually derive at this effect, like this type of overlapping on image, etc., the dividers, the wordings. Yeah. So I'll begin by adding at the bottom. I'll start off with the very top, a replica of the very top sexy woman part lah. So I'll show you guys how they actually arrive at that effect. So first of all, you will want to start with a new section. You click a plus and you select a single section. Okay, so the structure in Elementor is very different from Divi. So for those of you who are gonna practice Divi later on, I hope you don't get confused because yeah, I got confused myself also when I started this. So what you can do is click on the plus sign in the section, and then it will showcase a list of elements that you can actually include in your section itself. So first of all, you might want to start with a inner section. So what this does is actually divides your whole section into two columns. As you can see, 1, 2. So for the woman, right, you can see that the woman is actually, scroll up and show you guys. The woman is actually in the center. Well, you can see there's two boxes here. So it's actually this inner section with a background image. So I'll start off by showing you guys how to actually arrive at the entire woman being at the back of the entire section. So you want to click at the 6 dots at the section. So you can see that if I hover my mouse across the 6 dots, it will indicate that I'm editing the whole section right now. So I click on that, and then it will show me the entire section. So you can see the indication here, edit section. So first of all, they have the content width. So content width is basically telling you like how you want your content to be restricted in terms of the size. So it can be either full width or boxed. So I'll start with full width. And the column gap is basically the gaps between each of your columns that I've created as the inner section. So if I were to put no gap, it will be stick closely to each other. But for now, I will not insert that because it's not part of the. So for this, I'll put fit to screen so that I can extend the section. As you can see, once I put fit to screen, the section is being extended. Then I'll put middle. Okay, so now I'll go into inserting the image itself. So now I click on style, which is the second column on your edit section tools. So now you have two options, background and background overlay. So for this, right, it's actually a background. So what you need to do is click on classic. So in the classic, right, you can actually insert an image and also, of course, a color. But you will see that there's other features also, such as inserting a gradient in the background, inserting a video in the background, inserting a slideshow in the background. So these are actually very common things that you can add into the background. And I believe many of you have seen, like in other websites, they have videos running at the back of the background with text on top of it. So this is how they actually achieve the effect, which is to actually add a video at the background, but having words in the text itself. Yep. So I'll begin by adding the woman inside the page. So this, as you can see, this is my media, and you can see that having to install Envato elements, I can actually have pictures and tools from there. But I already downloaded the videos. I mean, I already downloaded the image, so I will not be using Envato's image. So back to my media library, scroll down, get the woman picture, insert media. So you can see that the entire thing is pink, right? This just shows that the picture is not positioned properly. So what you can do is put the picture into maybe center if you want it to be like this. And maybe you want it to be fixed. What fixed means is basically when I scroll right, you can see that the woman does not move. The image will stay at the fixed location. And you will realize that my current picture is still too big for the section itself. So I will adjust the thing to no repeat and also the size to be cover. So cover actually means that I want the image to fit to the size of my entire section, which is why you can see that currently the woman is smaller, but it actually looks better now. Yep. As for no repeat, right, it means that the image will not repeat once I over scroll to another section. So it doesn't give a like mirror effect. For those of you who like having like mountains or rivers, right, having a repeated image will be very useful for you because it actually gives the effect of a mirror of the river or of the mountains, which is more appealing as compared to having a woman having a reflected image at the bottom. So for now, I'll leave it at no repeat, and you can see that I've successfully created a similar replica of the section from the top. Now the woman is stable in the middle. I can now add text in front of her. So I'll click the plus sign. For those of you who can see, the plus sign is in the inner section. So I click plus sign. And my left will appear a series of elements that I can add in. So assuming I want to add in a header, right? I'll drop the header into the box. And from there, I can edit the header. Take, for example, I'll insert a random text for now, and I will go on to editing the text. So the color, maybe this is where I would say, for those of you who are familiar with color codes, right? This is where you can apply your color codes. For those of you who are not sure with color codes, right, what I can recommend you is to actually do some research or approach someone with more artistic mind to actually help you with the selection of colors. Because the overall display of your entire website, right, is heavily affected by the colors you select. So this is something you might want to consider. So for me, I'll just stick to white since, yeah, since I can just, the background is pink in color, I can just stick to white text. Did anyone see something? Okay, then under the typography, right, you can actually see a pen sign, right? So from there, you click on that, you can actually see a series of settings you can actually play with. So assuming I want to use, sorry, my computer is a bit slow. So you once you drop down, you can actually search for, if you have a font in mind, you can just search for the font. For those of you who don't have a font in mind, you can just play around with different fonts. So assuming I want to use this, I click on that, and then it will change. Then for the weight, I might want to go with 700. And for the size of the words, I might go with 45 pixels, maybe 55. Yeah. So it will look like this. And if you want to try to move the words into the middle, right, you can actually go to your advanced settings and push the margin in. So take for example, I want it to be 10 pixels. Sorry, hold on. Unlink the value first, and I want it to be 10 pixels, or maybe 50. Sorry, to the right, 50. Okay, so now that you have adjusted your image, right, and your wording, you can actually play around with maybe the dividers. So what are dividers? Dividers are like things that separate you from your next section. So assuming that I want my, maybe for example, I'm gonna try to put this under my current section. So I'll first create a new section, have a single section first, single structure, a single row I mean. And then now I would like to have a divider. So now I click on this section, go under styles, under shape dividers, I will select bottom. Bottom means I want the divider to be here. So what divider I want it to be? I want it to be a split. Then you can adjust the width of your divider and also the height of the divider. Now I have a divider, as you can see here. Then with that, I have finished my first section. So this is how you actually create background image with text. And now I'll try to replicate another section, which is section, the overlapping of images. So for those of you who are doing this first time, right, you might get confused because of the different way you can actually insert pictures. So in this section, right, I'll be inserting two different pictures. Let me bring your attention to the image first. First, I have this ice cream. That's one image. And if you take a closer look to the section, right, can you see like roses at the back? At the back, like it's blending roses. So this is another image. So there's a total of two images. So I'll start off with the section first. So I'll click the plus sign to adding two inner section. Okay, now that I've added two inner section, right, I can add my ice cream in. So if you were to look, you'll notice that ice cream is actually one section, and you can see that the text is actually another section. So what you want to do is first select, drop an image into this section. So you click the plus sign, you can go to search widget, you put images, and drop it into the text, to the box, and then now you can edit. Click on a pen, you can edit. I'll now drop in my ice cream here, insert it into my section, and then now I'll adjust the picture size to full because I want it to exit the image and exit the section at the top. So now what I need to do is, of course, try to exit the section by adjusting the size, the spacing and the margins. So for top, I will put it at a negative range. So I'll put it at 275, 270. This should be enough. So you will now the ice cream actually exits into the section where the woman is. Just to take note, right? For those of you who want to perform this type of overlapping of images, to ensure that the image that is gonna like the previous section, right? That image must not have a background. So let me show you the current image that I have. You can take a look that, as you can see, the current image that I have, the ice cream, does not have a background. So only items or images that don't have backgrounds are more suitable for such overlapping of image. Okay, now that I've completed this part, I'll do a second image, which is the background. So now I'll edit section, click styles, insert a background to the entire section, and I'll select the flower that was supposedly behind. Yep, this is the flowers. So I insert. Okay, as you can see, the flower can't be seen, right? So if you see the picture, right, the picture is quite long. So what you can do is maybe you put it to center, and then you will see the image. Now that you see the image, right, as you can see, the image is now too overwhelming because of the number of image I have here. It's a bit too overwhelming. So what you can do is actually, you can blend in the background. So one way you can do that is actually, you go into the section once again. Under the background, right, I have just inserted the image here. Under background, you can see background overlay. Click on that. You can insert the opacity of the image, which is 85. I will add a color, which is white. Yeah, so as you can see, the flower is somewhat still there, but it's less visible as compared to the previous version. So this is how you can achieve a overlapping of background and a standalone image, so that you can actually make a very cool texture to it, giving the web page a more 3D feel to it. So now that you understand how to actually play around with the background, how to overlay images, I'll show you guys how to actually create proper text. So now I'll play with the left side of the entire section. So I'll now drop in a button. I will try to replicate this section, which is the new share your favorite food challenge part. So I will try to replicate this section. So going back down, I will start off with a button. For those of you who are not aware, right, the function used here is actually a button. If you were to try to hover across the new, you'll see that it actually moves, or I would say pops up. So what you can do is you drop in a button, search for a button widget. Yeah, and then you can change the text to new with an exclamation mark. For now, I don't need an icon. So now that I've created a button, right, I need to adjust it so that it looks like a small tag rather than a button. So what I can do is, of course, first I adjust the font type. And then I select a size for it. And then give it a weight. And make it capitalized. Okay, now that I have the word properly done, I can actually play around with the padding. So the padding is actually the spacing in within the box itself. So assuming I adjust the top padding, right, to maybe 10, you can see that the top of the button is now longer than the other sides of the button. So what I want to do is actually create a small section for the and I can change the color to maybe red. Yeah. So this is how you actually can create a small button. So moving on, I'll now drop in a text. Going back to the elements that I have, I'll drop another text, or rather a heading for the share your favorite part. Sorry, hold on, my device is lagging. Okay, sorry. So, okay, okay, as you can see, I dropped my text in the wrong place, right? So for those of you who are wondering, how do you actually play around or drag around your tools? It's very simple. Can you see a pen at the corner, at the right hand corner of every section? You actually can hold the tool and then you can drag it back down. Okay, so I drag this. Okay, now I will just adjust this to share your favorite, or maybe like share your cupcake. Then I'll go to styles to edit the font type and the font size. So for this, I might want to use pink since the overall color is pink. Okay, sorry, I'm not quite good with my color coding, so just extract the color code from the previous word. So you can actually see the color code by clicking on the tools under styles. You can actually see the color code at the bottom of the text, bottom of the box. So I'll just extract that and paste it here. Yeah, paste it here, and I'll achieve the same. So now I just need to arrange the font. So I'll be using Comfort to actually make the font type, and maybe give it a 30 pixel or maybe bigger, 40. Give it a weight of 70. And now I just need to arrange it, maybe make it nearer to the new sign by decreasing the top margin. For instance, I can reduce it to -5 or even -10. So it is now nearer to the new sign. So this is how you can actually create the text for Elementor. Okay, so I'll skip this part because this is just a basic text box. I'll just jump straight into showing you guys how to create a button that looks like with curved edge. Okay, first, so I will start by dropping in a button element. So now I need to find a button widget first. Button. Drop it here. Sorry guys, I'm currently using my mouse is currently a bit faulty, so I'm having trouble dragging my tools around. Okay, so now I'll show you guys how to actually play around with the button. So the button above is called food challenge, right? So I'll replicate that. Food challenge. So now I'll, of course, first I want to include the color code. So I go into styles, get the color code, paste the color code. Yep. And then now I'll go back to the content part. I'll insert an Instagram image, Instagram icon. So you can actually search for icon here and then click insert. So now if you take a look at this and refer to the one back at the top, you'll notice that we are just left with the curving of the button itself. The rest is actually all done. So going back, I just need to arrange the font size and the font type followed by the curving of the button. So go back right into styles, get to the typography, change the font, maybe give it 25, with 20. And followed by the curve, which is the red border. So this is where you can actually cut the corners of the border. So I will want to adjust the top and the bottom. Bottom 35. So as you can see now, it looks like the one at the top. Okay, maybe my font is a bit too big, so I will want to adjust that to maybe 15. And maybe I want to include a larger button. For example, I include a padding of 10. So now my button will be like this. Okay, so actually I quite tight on time, so I'll quickly bring you through how to actually create a gallery. So an example of a gallery is, you can see, is this. This 6 donuts is actually a gallery. So I'll do a quick tutorial how to actually create a gallery because I'm running short on time and I need to move on to my Divi builder. So first I'll create a section, one row. Now I need to drop in the gallery tool, which is an element. So you just search for gallery. Drop in basic gallery. Click on the images that you want to include in your gallery. So if you want to select multiple image, you just hold on to Control and then you can select multiple image to be inserted at one go. So create a new gallery, insert a gallery. Okay, as you can see, the images are all separated, right? So what you need to do is full, click 6 columns, and now you might have a light box. Light box means that if the person were to click on the image will pop up in full screen. And then now I will need to adjust so that it will be stick side by side. So if you remember, you can actually edit it under your section. So now that I click on the 6 buttons, I'll be brought under edit sections. I can click content full width and no gap. Okay, now that you have created a no gap, right? You will need to adjust the image so that it will be side by side. Assuming you go to images, styles, spacing, custom, reduce the spacing to 0. Yeah, and we are done. So the last step was to actually remove the spacing within your image itself, which is why I have to go back to the gallery, which is here. I click on the pen, I go under styles. The first thing you see was spacing. All you need to do is create custom spacing and set it to 0. And it shows like straight line, basically. Okay, so with that, these are the most of the skills you can actually use in your creation of your own website for Elementor. As you can see, right, a lot of skills actually repeats itself. Take for example, this is actually a bunch of text with one divider, and the background image is something that I taught you, which is the woman. The only difference that was done was that they included a pink overlay on it, which can be easily done. Take for example, I were to click the section on the woman, edit section, I click the 6 buttons, I'll be brought here. Under the woman, you will see this tool called background layout, overlay, sorry. You click on that, right? You can actually include another image. Take for example, I have an overlay, like a pink overlay. I can just edit here. And from there, the woman will be a bit blurred, just like how you can see it right here of this restaurant. If anyone can actually notice, there's a restaurant at the back this way. Okay, so with that, I will end off Elementor because I'm running short of time and I need to go through Divi. So before I move on, right, is there any questions regarding Elementor? Because Elementor is a free to use tool, and I believe most of you who are gonna interact with WordPress, right, you will rather use a free to use than to a paid version of Divi. But then again, I prefer Divi is because of the usability. It's easier to use and it's more user friendly. And they have a more annual update. I mean monthly update as compared to Elementor. So is there any questions regarding Elementor? If there's no questions, I'll leave the pin out on Divi. Hello guys, is there any questions on Elementor?
No.
Okay, so I'll take a 10-minute break for now because I need to rejuvenate myself a bit, and then I will start on Divi. So for those of you who have a WordPress account but don't have Divi, you can actually start playing around with Elementor. For those of you who have Divi, you can be on standby because I'll be starting on Divi soon. Yep. So let's have a 10-minute break. So I'll start at 8:42. So yeah.
The C language remains strong after nearly 50 years. It's used to code microcontrollers, operating systems, graphics, and even newer and trendier languages. This course is a concept-based approach to learning the skills necessary to program in the C language. Each movie focuses on a specific part of the language. Basic processes are repeated as new concepts are introduced. It's like the way I learned C, exploring the language and discovering it at the same time. I'm Dan Coogan, author of the book Beginning C Programming for Dummies. Though I've been coding C for over 30 years, I still remember what it's like to be a beginner, so I'm sensitive to code needs. And my hope that you will learn the C language and discover new stuff. This first part of the course covers many of the basics, and it's a great way to start your C essential framework. Source code for this course is available for now. Obtain the archive from the course's webpage and expand it on your computer, right on the desktop or in a specific folder, depending on how you organize your file system. Files are decision movies and other folders. Inside we can find the source code files mentioned in each movie. Each file appears as it's first introduced in the course. You can modify the files along with me during the movie, or make changes on your own as you experiment with the C language.